YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with Week 6 score predictions, predicting the score to every single game, every single week. We also got power rankings already up on the channel for Week 6. We got straight up picks with the boys already up. Plenty of videos on the channel, plenty more to come. Full NFL coverage. We got you. We got you covered. 60K subscriber goal. Trying to get that sometime soon, so we much appreciate if you could subscribe. Turn notifications on. Our Twitter, constant NFL talk. Talking during live games, every single live game this year. That's a must follow. Link down below for that Twitter. You can see it on the screen as well. Instagram, podcast, Patreon, a lot going on. Right before we get into these score predictions, Patreon. Link down below for that. Like I mentioned, bunch of extra content. Junior score predictions, my locks of the week, looking at against the spread picks, over-under picks. Been doing very well on those this year. Doing those for college football now as well. So money line picks, against the spread picks, score predictions. Added what I like to call upset watch weekly. So we take all the NFL underdogs, and I give you a percentage they have to win. That can help in a money line bet, perhaps. Updated playoff predictions starting soon. Bonus content, Discord access, much more. Always adding more. Link down below. Appreciate the support. A lot of you signing up for that. Usually these things go up on Wednesday and Thursday. This week, everything pushed back a little bit because of the Tuesday game, but it'll be there. Some of that stuff's already up there. It'll be there if you're signed up. Don't worry. But to the first game, Bears-Panthers, tricky one here. Both teams pretty hot. The Bears had lost to the Colts a couple weeks ago, but they're 4-1. They're feeling it, fresh off a big win against the Buccaneers in prime time. Panthers got a 3-game winning streak. Teddy Bridgewater looking really good. Mike Davis, revenge game here. He's looking fantastic. I got the Bears winning by 3. I think the difference here is the Bears' defense. It could be one of the best in football. It's starting to get better looking at the Buccaneers game. So I think that could be the difference here. But if you remember, Teddy Bridgewater kind of tore up that Bears defense last year, but he was with the Saints. Could that just be a problem for this defense? Could Teddy Bridgewater be the problem? And to argue for the Panthers, you take a look at the two receivers they got, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. Those are speed receivers. I do think that's how you beat these Bears corners. Very good corner duo. Not necessarily saying they're going to beat them because of this, but I think the ideal top trait to have against these Bears corners is speed. So they have that going for them. I just trust the Bears defense the most in this game, and between the two, between this matchup here. So I'm going to go with the Bears defense and then make that extra play to win the game. And I think their Bears offense, I'm kind of back and forth on it. It could be something that could get better as time goes on because Nick Foles kind of just getting in the groove, or it could be something that gets worse because you can see they're pretty one-dimensional. So teams may game plan, for that small ball passing game, and that could come back to haunt them there. They got to get some kind of running game going. They got to get some kind of deep game going as well. So that's something that's stopping the Bears from continuing this success. But I'm going to take the Bears. The Panthers are actually favoring this one. It's going to be a really good game. Could go either way. I got the Bears by 3. Somewhat of a defensive game here. Next game, Bengals and Colts. I got a close one. I seen the line, jump around from 7.5 to 8 around there. So the Bengals, and if you're new to the video, it's Bengals plus 7.5 at Colts. That's how all the graphics work there. Pretty straightforward. But I think closer than most people think, closer than Vegas thinks. I think it's a pretty good matchup for the Bengals. Not that it's a bad matchup for the Colts, but you look at the Bengals, their weakness is teams with very good pressure, constantly getting pressure on Burrow. He doesn't have enough time to throw it to he's got a pretty good, supporting cast there. Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, AJ Green, quite a few guys that can play. T. Higgins picking it up. The Colts don't get crazy pressure. They got some solid guys that can get pressure. DeForest Buckner in the interior could be the game changer in this game. But they're right, middle of the pack, maybe a little lower than that in terms of pressure, in terms of sacks mainly. And you see the games that the Bengals, Joe Burrow really struggles is when there's constantly pressure. The Ravens are a really good blitzing team. The Colts defense is really good. But that's because they're very tight in coverage. It's because they're gang tacklers. That's because they're very smart. So I think the Bengals could move the ball. They have weapons on the outside, just like the Browns did, and those Browns receivers were able to do something, they played pretty well against these good Colts corners. So the Bengals can do something. I don't think they're going to score a lot of points. Obviously, 24 is a pretty good amount against the Colts. But I think, with that being said, all that being said, I think the Bengals match up pretty well. But I do think the Colts are playing simple the better team. I think their defense can still make that extra play, and their offense gets going. Nothing special here, but definitely better than last week. Phillip Rivers could. This is a sneaky game because the Bengals, I think, can move the ball. 24 could be enough. It's nothing crazy, but 24 could be enough if Phillip Rivers continues to turn the ball over. But the difference between the Bengals and the Browns, on paper, they're really not that much of a difference. The Browns do have Myles Garrett, but I think the difference is the Browns do get basically what I'm saying they're similar is you can move the ball on both teams, both defenses. But the Browns have that turnover factor. They get their hands in the ball some way, somehow, some way there. So that could be the difference there. Give the Colts a slight edge, but this could be a trap game for them. I wouldn't say this is – I think most people will call this probably a lock. I would say not so fast here. So I'm actually excited about that one. It's on Phillip Rivers. Control the ball here. But I do have the Colts by 2. Lions and Jags. I got the Lions 31-23. Jaguars are struggling a little bit. Teams are figuring out ways to game plan against the offense. They're playing press man, like I said a few weeks ago, that teams will start to do. And there, you see the Texans did a lot too, keeping everything tight, forcing them to get out their comfort zone there, and that kind of forces them not to be able to score that many points. And their defense is kind of struggling as well. I don't think there's enough speed out there on defense. That's something I've noticed. Lions off the bye. I'm confident the Lions can move the ball, especially against the Jags, but I think they can move the ball against anybody pretty much. I think Galladay could have a day. Stafford could have a day. I've been looking at their defense. Their defense has struggled, the Lions, that is, but I think with a week off, Patricia, still a good defensive mind, even though he hasn't got things going. I think they'll have the correct game plan. That's just all it is against the Jaguars. You have the correct game plan. You're definitely better than them on paper because they traded half their team. So I will take the Lions, but the Lions haven't been overly impressive this year, so anything could happen, but I like them on both sides of the ball. I'm confident their offense will get going. I'm confident their defense will have the correct game plan. Does that mean they'll completely stop them? No, it doesn't. So that could be the factor there. But, I got them I want them to get more pressure. I want both teams to get more pressure. Lack of pressure, very disappointing. The Lions are minus 3.5 at Jacksonville. A tricky one there. But I do have the Lions covering. But I think that bye week can help them in a game like this. So at least you would hope it would. It should at least. Next, Falcons, Vikings. I got the Vikings take care of business 30-24 here. The Vikings are favored by 3.5. They don't have Dalvin Cook. Madison, ran all over the Seahawks defense as well. He's a pretty good running back. He would start on most teams there. I even think their third running back, Mike Boone, who would be the second running back in this game, he would probably start on a good chunk of teams as well. So they'll be just fine with the running game without Dalvin Cook, even though he's the leading rusher by a good margin there. But I also think they can throw the ball pretty well in the Falcons, with Thielen, with Jefferson. That's kind of the thing you wonder, though. The Vikings got to go out and actually throw the ball. They ran the ball pretty well on the Seahawks, but the main thing you're supposed to be able to do on the Seahawks is throw the ball, and they kind of were afraid to do that at times, maybe because of how good the run was working, but that could have cost them in the end. They got to come out firing in this game against the Falcons. I think they'll do so. So I think they'll take care of business. The Falcons could move the ball against the Vikings. We know we still have some trust in the Falcons offense, even though the last couple of weeks it's pretty much been Todd Gurley kind of carrying the load. The Vikings defense is one that's been struggling, but I can see it starting to pick it up, and I'm confident it'll start to pick it up a bit. But I do have the Falcons still scoring 24. But I got the Vikings putting up 30 because I do like that offense. They got to limit the turnovers a little bit. In the past, they haven't really been that high, turnover team. It feels like they're getting more yards and points than usual, but they're turning the ball over more than usual. So it's odd. But I do have the Vikings taking care of business here. I think, I trust them actually on both sides of the ball a little more than the Falcons. Offense, pretty close. I think the Vikings got more playmakers. Some guys beat up for the Falcons. We'll see if they get Julio back. Defensively, I definitely trust the Vikings more, but neither are a good defense, really. So I'm going to go with the Vikings there, 30-24, somewhat of a high-scoring game. Washington versus the Giants. The Giants are actually favored in this game. Washington's plus 2.5 in New York. So the Washington football team versus the New York football Giants. Low-scoring game, 20-17. I'm feeling Washington this one. This is a hard score, though, to predict. I don't want to say I'm overly confident, but I'm pretty confident in Washington. I wasn't, it's a tough one to pick, but I was pretty confident in Washington. But the score is a tough one because I can see this is kind of low scoring, but I can see it's higher as well. I think it's very realistic, but I think trying to think what's the matchup problem, who's kind of favored when you look at the matchups. I think the glaring one is Washington's pass rush, who now is Chase Young back as of last week. I think that pass rush will really get after this offensive line and Daniel Jones, who's kind of turnover prone right now, especially when under pressure. So I think Washington's defense, that pass rush, forces that extra turnover. I think Kyle Allen plays a pretty solid game, does enough here. And that's kind of the difference there. The Giants' offense, maybe you can trust their offense a little more than Washington, a little more. But I think combining the pass rush, and I think Kyle Allen can move the ball. Antonio Gibson's getting better. Terry McLaurin, these guys. I think that could be the difference. And we see the factor last week. Washington couldn't block. They couldn't block the Rams. They couldn't block Aaron Donald. But pretty solid defensive line for the Giants, but there's just not a whole bunch of actual pass rush, so that it doesn't really go to their favor there. So I like Washington in this one. Actually, it's not the best teams, but it could be a pretty entertaining game, pretty good game actually. But I got Washington by 3, and they're the underdogs in this game. Ravens and Eagles got 24-17, so I got a 7-point game here, and it's right around the line that the Ravens are favored by 7.5. I don't have a whole bunch of points for the Ravens. I don't think they go crazy on offense in this game. 24 is good enough, though. The Eagles gets about 17. I like this Ravens defense. They're allowing the least amount of points per game this season, so technically they are the number 1 defense in football. I think that has to do with their blitz game. It has to do with their corners, their coverage skills, combined with the blitz game. A guy like Patrick Queen is stepping up, really fits that Martindale scheme, so I love that. I talked about it last week that they're going to blitz the crap out of Joe Burrow because that is the weakness of that team, and that was a big-time factor. And I'm going to say it again. They're going to blitz the crap out of Carson Wentz because that's a game changer. That's a factor. But the Eagles actually could win this game. It depends on which Carson Wentz steps up. And we're always saying, it's on Carson Wentz. He has to play better. They lost that game because he didn't play that great. And this is the real one. And it's a tough task against the Ravens. Like I said, number 1 defense technically. But this is on him because the blitz will get after him. It'll cause him to get sacked. It'll cause him to get pressured. It'll cause him to make tough decisions and turn the ball over. But that is based on the Carson Wentz that's been playing this year. If the old Carson Wentz shows up, the Eagles will win this game. The Eagles will win this game if the old Carson Wentz shows up because the blitz, he can outperform the blitz. We see the blitz of the Ravens, the best blitzing team against Patrick Mahomes. Why didn't it work? Why didn't it work? Because Mahomes saw it before it was coming. He saw it when it was coming. He stepped around it. He made throws on the run outside the pocket. He's just overall better than the blitz. The old Carson Wentz had those similar traits. He was better than the blitz. He can move around it. He can make plays on the run. He didn't panic too early. He didn't panic and just make a mistake, throw an interception. So that is, I just described the old Wentz versus the new Wentz. So what Wentz is going to show up based on what we've seen this year? I think the more over 50% chance that the new Wentz shows up what we've seen this year because we haven't really seen the old Wentz once this year. So, but like I said, if that very good Carson Wentz shows up, I think they'll win this game. I do. But it's going to be tough. The blitz is going to be in his face. You got the solid Ravens corners. I mainly think it's going to be, and the offense will do their job. I don't think they'll do a crazy amount, but I think the Ravens defense mainly win this game. But it actually could be a good game, like I said, for the reasons I explained there. Browns and Steelers, another really good game. I got the Steelers taking care of business 27-23. Baker a little beat up. I think that could be a factor. He says he's okay, he's good to go. But I think with this, the best pass rush in football, I think coming after him, I think that could be a test. The offensive line of the Browns has been playing fantastic. Have they seen this pass rush yet? No, they have absolutely not seen this pass rush yet. So a true test here. Another true test for the Browns. They passed last week, which I expected them to. Can they pass this one? I got the Steelers winning, but I still really like the Browns. This is a series they can split, this year, perhaps. Odell is actually sick as well. Doesn't sound like it's the COVID, but they're keeping him home to play it safe. That's actually a factor. I think they have a solid shot. I think both teams have a solid shot in this game, a decent shot, pretty even. But the factor for the Browns is those receivers, much like the Colts, going against the Colts corners, they've been playing fantastic, but the receivers were just too talented. They were just making the plays. And this similar thing against the Steelers. The Steelers secondary, I think it's good, but it can be beat, and these receivers can take care of business against them. But what the Steelers do is stop the run first, and then they get after your quarterback, and that's the perfect game plan here against the Browns. The Browns got to get this lead early. I don't think this is a come-from-behind team. They got to get this lead early. I'm not talking if they're down 7-0, they're going to be fine. If they're down 7-3, whatever it is, I think they'll be fine. I'm talking, multiple scores there, 10, 14. But and we'll see. Myles Garrett once again could be a factor. The Steelers really haven't seen that. This good of a team maybe. They haven't really seen a Myles Garrett yet, so that can be the difference. But I'm trusting the Steelers defense to do their job. Get after Baker, who's a little beat up, and I trust Steelers' offense to take care of business here because they can really spread the field. I do think you can move the ball against the Browns' defense, but they do have the turnover factor. Big Ben, in the past, last couple years, or I guess before last year because he didn't really play, was tending to turn the ball over quite a bit, so that could be a factor in this game, but he's been very good with the ball this year. So I do have the Steelers. Should be a good one, though. Next, Texans and Titans. I got the Titans winning by 10. Titans got a really good team here. They're going to have some guys coming back off the COVID list. They just took care of the Bills. Now they'll play the division rival. I'm surprised the line is this low. I know some people are calling it a trap game, but maybe that's just because the Titans are fresh off a crazy win, and we almost expect them to continue, and it's a division rival game. But everything points towards the Titans in this game. Everything. They have the better offense. They have the better they have the better team in general. I think Derrick Henry runs wild in this game. I think Tannehill does just enough. He makes those plays. A.J. Brown, they're getting him going. Every part of this offense, the offensive line has been fantastic. Texas pass rush really hasn't been there. It's been there the last couple weeks, but who they play? They play the Vikings and the Jaguars, two offensive lines that aren't the Titans. So I think every part about this Titans offense says they will have a day. I think mainly Derrick Henry gets the load this week. And then you look at the defense. Titans defense hasn't been playing that great, but it will get better as the season goes on. I think Deshaun Watson could have a pretty solid game. But is there something that can take over this game? And possibly they can make some big plays on offense, but is that enough to keep up with the Titans' offense? The Titans are just better on both sides of the ball, playing simple, but I think the Titans' offense mainly gets the job done here. Remember, Benardrick McKinney's now out for the season for the Texans. That's a tough loss. So everything points towards the Titans. People calling this kind of a trap game. I think people kind of throw that out too often. I think I need to see some kind of matchup problem that favors the underdog team, like the Bengals. I call that a trap game for the Colts. I don't know if it's a trap game really. The Titans and the Texans can win, but the Titans just should win this game, plain and simple. Moving on to the next one, Broncos Patriots. I think maybe a little closer than people expect. And this is another one. It's really tough to predict the score. It can be a defensive battle. It could be an offensive battle. I kind of went a little more towards the offense. People are still really high in the Patriots defense. There's a lot to get excited about it, but I still don't think it's as good as last year. I think you can score on it. What favors the Broncos? The Patriots run a lot of man coverage. I think they can favor Drew Lock and specifically Jerry Jeudy. Why we haven't seen Jerry Jeudy play as good as some of the other rookie receivers yet? It's because a lot of teams have been showing him zone. It's a kid that needs to develop against zone coverages because he just dominated man coverage in college because of the footwork. Patriots play a lot of man, so we'll see how they adjust to that. This could be a breakout game for Jerry Jeudy, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots showed us a lot of zone, even though they're heavy man scheme, just because of the matchup. But the Broncos, even though they're beat up, they still got their playmakers out there. Still got their pass rush and Bradley Chubb, but they are still a little more beat up than the Patriots here. So I have the Patriots taking care of business, 30-24. I think Cam has a pretty solid game passing. You expect him to come out running a little bit, but I think it's more in the passing game. But this actually should be a good game. I'm surprised it's all the way up to 9.5. I'm not super surprised there, but yeah, it's a game that actually the Broncos could win, really. But that's what I could see the score like this. I can also see it as like a 17-13 game. So interesting one. Definitely curious to see how that one plays out. Jets and Dolphins, they definitely have the Dolphins take care of business, 16-31. Dolphins, they're favored by 9.5 as well here. That one makes a little more sense. But Dolphins, I think, better on every single phase here. Their offense is rolling. Fitzpatrick will continue to roll in this game. They're in the conversation for Le'Veon Bell at the time of recording this. We'll see if that happens. He can play his former team if he's ready to go. I think they would have to sign him by sometime today. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, somebody already did. Maybe it's the Dolphins. But yeah, I think they're just too strong on offense, and I think defensively, Brian Flores will game plan correctly, and they'll blitz Flacco a bit. The Jets are getting Mims back. I was very high on him out of Baylor. I'm excited about that. I think Flacco might actually be a better quarterback for Mims. I think they can connect on the deep sideline ball there, and that could do some wonders. But just not enough. I think the Dolphins are hot right now. They're better on both sides of the ball, so I have the Dolphins definitely taking care of business here. But the Dolphins are also one of those teams that you feel like they can beat almost anybody, and they can just kind of just lay a stinker one week against a bad team. I just don't see it happen here, but I guess it's possible. Packers and Bucks, this should be a really good one. I got the Packers. I think the Packers are, so far through this season, the Packers, I think, are the best team in football. So I'm going to roll with them. It's pretty hard to go against them in this one. 31-27 is what I got. But the Buccaneers, you can't really judge them off the Bears game all that much. They weren't at full strength. They really missed Godwin in that game. I think Godwin's actually their best receiver. That's my opinion, but I feel very strongly about it just because he can do so much more. I think it's easier to get him open. So that actually could be a factor. He's pretty hard to tackle in the open field, and that is kind of the Packers' weakness. So that would be the reason to pick the Buccaneers. A guy like Godwin. Ronald Jones actually getting going. They can get Leonard Fournette back. Can the Packers stop maybe that trio of guys? Can they tackle them? That's really the only weakness to the Packers. I think you could run on them. Even though they should get Kenny Clark back, but tackling, it's not a problem for Kenny Clark. I think he's the best nose tackle in football, so that could be a factor. Speaking of nose tackles, Vita Vea, one of the best run defending nose tackles in football, obviously got hurt last week, and that could affect them. If he was in this game, they can come in here and stop a very good running back or slow a very good running back in Aaron Jones down and force them to pass. And easier said than done against a guy like Aaron Rodgers, but you could actually, when you predict pass, would be pretty easy if you're already stopping the run, then you actually could play better than expected. But I don't think that'll be the case because Vea's out. That can still slow down Aaron Jones maybe than compared to how other teams have, but I still think he'll run pretty well. I think they'll catch the ball pretty well in the backfield. They also get Devontae Adams back. I think Rodgers has a pretty good day here. I think he has a pretty good day in this game, and that's the factor. Another thing why I like the Packers defense in this game, obviously I think the Bucs will score points, but it can make that extra play. Will just do just enough to help their offense outscore their opponent, is because the Packers, like I said, their weakness sometimes in the running game, maybe tackling a little bit, angles, small ball, perhaps, is their weakness, but the Buccaneers really aren't about the small ball. They're more about the downfield, and they can get Godwin going underneath. And again, that could be a factor, like I mentioned. But Brady wants to take shots. He can hit the shot still, but the Packers are very good defending downfield, and they also have a guy like Za'Darius Smith, Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, those guys that can get the pressure at the same time. So I think those go together pretty well against a team like the Buccaneers. So the defense can make that extra play, but I do think the Buccaneers can still score. But I just like the Packers, the way they're playing. But again, maybe the bye week slowed them down. That's kind of the worry a little bit, but it kind of helped that getting some other guys back, especially Devontae Adams there, who could have a pretty big game. So, yeah, I got the Packers. Should be a great one, though. Next, Rams and 49ers. I got the Rams 30-20 here. They're favored by 3.5. I think the main thing here is the defense. I think Aaron Donald will provide that pressure, and they have the secondary to make the plays. So if Garoppolo, whoever's that quarterback, kind of panics because Aaron Donald, he'll have to make some tough decisions, kind of like last week against the Dolphins, and they have the playmaking secondary. So that's the main thing here. And I think the Rams will get pretty good field position at times in this game. And they have a big variety of plays. They can beat you downfield. They can beat you in small ball, quick, high tempo, run the ball. And that'll kind of be a problem for the Niners' beat-up defense here. If Garoppolo gets back on his game, they have the weapons still. They have the running backs. They have Kittle. They have Samuel. They can cause some problems, and that could be the difference this game. They are home. It is prime time, so that could be the difference. We saw how good last year the Niners were prime time, so they're going to need to pick it up, though. I know they have a lot of injuries, but I just think it favors the Rams here, the matchup. So I'm going to take the Rams. They're looking pretty good this year. 30-20 is what I got. Chiefs and Bills, a shootout. 34-31. Line is 3.5, so right in the ballpark there. I got the Chiefs taking care of business. I think it's just which offense do I trust more is what this comes down to. The defenses I think will be pretty even. They can make plays here and there. But it's what offense I trust a little more. I'm going to trust Mahomes in this one. Josh Allen, I'm a supporter of Josh Allen. I know he has the, crazy potential, and we saw that this year. He kind of hit another height, another part of that this year. Last week against the Titans wasn't too pretty, though. I don't expect that to show up more than the great Josh Allen. The great Josh Allen will show up more, and I think he'll have a great game in this one. But which quarterback, basically quarterback's got to play flawless in this one, I think. And which one do I trust more in that? It's going to be Mahomes there and their speed on offense. So I'm going to go that route. Also, a difference is I trust the Chiefs' run game a little more. The Bills really just can't get it going. They're becoming a little one-dimensional. The Chiefs feel one-dimensional in a game against the Raiders, but that's because they're only passing. I think it's the matter of getting Edwards-Helaire going a little more because he's doing fantastic. But they'd still, even if they don't get him going a whole bunch, give him the ball a whole bunch, they still have the run game factor. So those slight differences point towards the Chiefs for me, but it should be a great game. It's a Monday night game. Second Monday night game, Cardinals and Cowboys. I got a 1-point game. This was the toughest game to pick of the week. Cardinals are actually favored. No Dak Prescott, and I still got the Cowboys. I think they kind of got a game plan factor going for them. Looking at what do we expect? Maybe that's what the Cardinals are thinking. What do we expect with Andy Dalton? We don't have a bunch of film on him with the Cowboys, and he played good in the limited snaps that he had last week. But they're going to run the ball more. They're going to get Zeke going. Do we have to worry about stopping Zeke because we don't have the greatest, defensive front to stop the, it's not terrible, but we have to worry about Zeke. But they have that trio of receivers. Do we have to worry about that because that's what other teams have been had a problem with? But they switch quarterbacks. What are they going to rely on? It's a lot of questions here. Another one, CeeDee Lamb has been the main go-to target. He's been getting wide open. Do we kind of put our focus there? But then do they unleash the receivers on the outside? There's so many questions in this game that the Cowboys could pretty much do anything, and it's going to keep the Cardinals guessing, and that's what I got for the difference. And the Cowboys do have the playmakers as well. Not that the Cardinals don't, but for me, it feels like the playmakers are it's limited right now. It's Murray and it's Hopkins. Hopkins may be the best receiver in football. But other than that, other guys are they're making plays here and there, but they're kind of struggling to get open. There's really no run game right now. So another thing, so everything I said kind of points towards the Cowboys. But another thing is, I don't really think it matters on who the defense is for the Cardinals. You could say the Cowboys have a terrible defense. Cardinals are going to have a field day. Really, they should, but I don't know if that matters. It's kind of been on them. It's really not anything the defense is doing. It's just, are they making the plays? Are guys getting open? Or is Kyler Murray making the throws? I think he's been running pretty well. Hopkins playing pretty well, but it's kind of on them. They got to be clicking in a full game, and I don't know if they have done that yet, and they haven't had the hardest schedule as well so far. So a tight game. Remember, no Chandler Jones as well, but remember, both tackles are out for the Cowboys, but do the Cardinals have the pass rush to take advantage of that? It's kind of the question there. So everything's kind of pointing towards the Cowboys, but honestly, what's going on with the Cowboys, the amount of injuries they have, the Cardinals honestly should be better, and that's probably why they're favored. But I got so many reasons that just point towards the Cowboys that I'm going with that. They're also home, prime time here, so that's my pick. That actually should be a really solid game there. I probably expected, maybe people expected me to have them both in the 30s, but I think mainly an offensive game. I think 26-27 is a pretty offensive game, but I think they'll kind of slow themselves down at times. Maybe Dalton missed some throws here and there. Murray missed some throws here and there that can slow a good drive down, at midfield. But yeah, that Cowboys could get Van Der Esch back, too. I see Jalen Smith's playing a little better. I think a guy like Trevon Diggs could be playing a little bit. He's going to continue to get better. I think the defense actually could get better as the season goes on there. Cardinals, I would say the same thing, but Chandler Jones got hurt, so that's unfortunate, which they would use Isaiah Simmons a little more. They don't like what they see from him. They're limiting his snaps. There's no doubt in my mind that guy can play. We've seen it. He's even proven it. So it's a little concerning. But yeah, that should be a good one. Should be a close one there. It's going to do it for this week's score predictions, though. Appreciate you guys for watching. Please smash that like button if you enjoy. We're back every single week. We got plenty of other content on the channel, plenty on the Twitter, on the Patreon, link down below for those things. But that's going to do it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.